Not done yet. The skyline didn't look like freedom anymore. It looked like judgment. Glass towers rose into a bruised evening sky, reflecting fragments of a city that never admitted what it was built on. Somewhere below those lights, people were still pretending laws mattered. Isabella stood at the edge of the penthouse balcony, wind pressing against her silk coat like an invisible hand testing whether she still belonged to the world she had just helped reshape. Behind her, silence wasn't empty. It was ownership. Marco's presence didn't need sound. He was there in posture, in controlled breath, in the way even victory didn't relax him. Luca lingered near the door like a shadow that distrusted every outcome. Victor stood closer to the glass, watching Isabella instead of the city. The ledger lay open on the table, not paper anymore. Not information, a weapon that had finally been disarmed. Isabella didn't look at it at first. She was still hearing the airport inside her head, the gunfire, the breaking glass, and Zoe's voice folding reality into something unstable. Marco broke the silence first. You didn't hesitate. It wasn't praise, it was measurement. Isabella didn't turn. Hesitation is for people who believe the past is finished. A flicker passed behind Marco's eyes, recognition. Or concern, even he couldn't decide. Victor stepped forward slightly. The cipher wasn't just encryption, it was architecture. Every account connects like a spine. Isabella finally looked at the ledger. Her fingers hovered over it, not touching yet, as if the truth might still burn. It's not just money, she said quietly. It's movement. Every transfer is a memory. Luca frowned. Money doesn't have memory. Isabella's gaze lifted to him. That's why you don't understand it. The air tightened. Luca's hand twitched toward his weapon, then stopped. Not because he trusted her, but because Marco didn't signal fear, and Marco never reacted without calculation. A notification blinked on Victor's tablet. One line of decoded structure, one destination. His expression changed first. They're not moving money, Victor said slowly. They're moving the end of something. Marco leaned in. Explain. Victor hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than gunfire. The final ledger stream routes everything to a single exit node. Private aviation network, off-books flight clearance, one destination. Isabella already knew before he finished. Still, hearing it made her stomach tighten. Victor looked up. A jet, ready, active. 30 minutes from full departure. Silence didn't fall, it collapsed. Marco straightened slowly. Where? Victor turned the screen, and the name appeared like a verdict. Isabella felt her pulse stop for a fraction of a second. Because she had been there before in fragments of memory that never fully formed. Not the place, but the concept of escape before consequences arrive. Enzo wasn't running. He was completing a system. Isabella moved before she spoke. Her hand pressed against the table edge, steadying herself more than the world. He's not escaping, she said. Marco's eyes narrowed. Then what is he doing? Isabella's voice lowered. He's closing the loop. That phrase landed differently. Even Luca stopped breathing for a second. Victor looked at her carefully. You've seen this structure before. Isabella didn't answer immediately, because the answer lived somewhere she had spent years refusing to open. Then she spoke anyway. In Sicily, she said, there was a belief. You don't destroy your enemies, you complete them. You make their ending serve your beginning. Marco studied her face like a shifting map. And Enzo is your beginning. A pause, then Isabella shook her head. No, she said quietly. He is my origin pretending to be my enemy. Something in the room changed shape. Even Marco felt it. Because that wasn't revenge language, that was recognition of design. Victor closed the tablet slowly. Then we don't have 30 minutes, we have closure pressure. Luca scoffed. We still don't even know if this is a trap. Isabella finally turned fully, and when she spoke, her voice carried something colder than anger. It is always a trap, she said. The question is who built it. A beat of silence followed. Then Marco made the decision. Move. The word wasn't loud, but it moved the room. The penthouse dissolved into motion. Weapons checked. Orders transmitted. Doors opened like disciplined obedience to inevitability. Isabella remained still for half a second longer than everyone else. Victor noticed. He stepped closer, voice quieter now. You don't have to face him alone. Her eyes didn't move away from the horizon. I already did. That was the first truth she had said without protection. And it frightened her more than bullets ever had. The convoy descended through Manhattan like a controlled rupture. Lights blurred. Sirens became irrelevant background noise. The city felt suddenly smaller, like it was watching them leave without permission. Marco sat across from Isabella in the armored vehicle. For a long time, neither spoke. Then he asked almost casually, "What did he do to you?" Isabella didn't answer immediately. Outside, rain began to fall, not gently, but like something arriving late to punishment. Finally she said, "He didn't destroy my family." Marco looked at her sharply. She continued, quieter. "He made them believe they were safe before they died." A pause. That detail shifted something in Marco's expression. Not sympathy, understanding of method. Victor leaned forward slightly. Psychological collapse before physical execution. Isabella nodded once. He didn't kill Morty's strength, he erased its confidence first. Luca muttered, "That's not power, that's obsession." Isabella's eyes turned to him briefly. "No," she said. "That's architecture." The word returned again, and now it carried weight. The airport perimeter came into view, floodlights, black vehicles, security layers stacked like intent made physical. And beyond them, something waiting. A jet, engines already humming like a restrained secret. Marco's voice came low. "That's him." But Isabella didn't look at the plane. She was looking at the space between structures, because Enzo was never inside the visible center. He was always between decisions. The first shot fired before they exited the vehicle. The world snapped into violence again, but this time it felt rehearsed. Guards moved like trained inevitability. Marco's men answered with precision. Luca disappeared into cover fire. Victor stayed near Isabella, not protecting her body, but tracking the pattern of movement around her. Isabella moved differently, not toward survival, toward completion. They breached the first barrier, then the second. Then the silence inside chaos began forming again, the dangerous kind that always appears before truth reveals itself. Inside the terminal, the kidnapped girl was already gone. That realization hit Marco first. "She's not here," he said sharply. Victor scanned the perimeter. She was never meant to stay. Isabella stopped walking because she felt it before she saw it. Presence, not behind them, ahead. At the base of the aircraft stairs, Enzo stood waiting. No guards now. No urgency, just inevitability dressed as patience. And beside him, a manila folder, thick, final. Isabella's breath tightened. Marco raised his weapon immediately, but Enzo didn't react. He only looked at Isabella, like the rest of the world was already resolved. "You came faster than expected," Enzo said calmly. Isabella stepped forward once. The distance between past and present shrinking again. Marco followed half a step behind her. Enzo's gaze never left her face. "You decoded it," he said softly. "So you finally saw the shape of it." Isabella's voice came low. "Where is the girl?" Enzo tilted his head slightly. "Safe." "Irrelevant now." That word, irrelevant, landed like insult and instruction at the same time. Victor's grip tightened. Luca aimed fully now, but Enzo didn't even acknowledge them. He opened the folder. Inside, documents, names, transactions. A history written in invisible ink made visible too late. And at the top, a single line, Isabella's full name, not Vance, not hidden identity, Morty. Marco saw it too. His eyes shifted to her immediately. Isabella didn't move, because she already knew what was coming. Enzo spoke quietly. "The Morty massacre wasn't a betrayal," he said. "It was a transfer." Silence detonated in the air. Isabella's body went still in a way that wasn't fear. It was recognition of fracture beginning again. Enzo continued, voice almost gentle now. "You were never the target," he said. "You were the inheritance." Marco's expression changed, confusion breaking into something sharper. Victor whispered, barely audible. "What does that mean?" Enzo looked at Isabella like a man finishing a story only she was meant to understand. "It means," he said, "you were never meant to survive me." A pause. "You were meant to replace them." Isabella felt the ground shift beneath her understanding of everything she had ever believed. Fire, memory, escape, none of it accidental, all of it arranged. Her breath broke once, just once, and Enzo watched it happen like confirmation. Because in that moment, Isabella understood the most terrifying possibility of all, that her life had not been stolen. It had been delivered. Before Marco could speak, Enzo slid the folder across the ground toward her. "And now," he said softly, "you get to decide what kind of Morty you become." The wind picked up. The plane behind him continued to hum. Time stopped behaving normally. Isabella looked down at the folder, then at Enzo, then at Marco. And for the first time since the fire that should have killed her, she didn't know whether she was holding revenge or inheritance. If you stopped here, you only know half the truth. The real story, the part that will shock you, move you, and stay with you, is still coming. Subscribe now. Hit the bell and come back, because we're not done yet.